Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on a pretty decent Thursday afternoon. I'm out here in the shop looking at the mess in front of me with the goal of cleaning off my bench. This mess is an FTI level 4.5. Most transmission shops have a way of, structuring what they're going to sell you. And nothing in this video is negative toward FTI. They actually make a decent product. And they clearly spell out what each level is. This is a 4.5, which means at that level you're starting to get some replacement parts at a higher strength. And briefly, this transmission has an aftermarket bell housing. It has a replacement output shaft of, I assume, stronger metal. It has an intermediate shaft or main shaft, whatever you want to call it. It has an aluminum drum, although it's not the aluminum drum with a liner. This is where your seals ride when it sits over the center support. And for any kind of longevity, if you're going to drive this thing, or even race it for multiple years, you want the one with the steel liner. This is just the aluminum one. In this case, it has not worn this out yet. It has rattled the lugs where the steels ride. On both sides, it's got some pretty decent notches in there. And what's interesting about this transmission, I'm getting ahead of myself, it is in a pulling truck, which is low gear only. From what I understand, they hook to the weight sled and hold it wide open, and they don't have a shift. So the damage I see, we're going to go section by section, a lot of this is from the clutches freewheeling next to each other. We talk about, centrifugal damage in the direct drum anyway, when it counter rotates and spins really fast. And that's what we're seeing on this one, because it wasn't ever shifted into second. But there's wear. This is the pressure plate for the direct drum. See the hot spots. This direct drum needed more clearance. Now, would we see that in a drag race transmission if this was actually being shifted? Probably less, because again, all those clutches ever did was rub past each other. So that's where we ended up. So this was one of the last transmissions I was hoping to finish before I took a little vacation. I've been working nonstop for 10 years or so. I was going to take a week or so off. And this one's been here for a while. The guy was in no hurry. The pulling starts later in the summer. And that's a good schedule. If you work in the automotive industry, the wear of everybody's timeline. I understand people have their own things going on, but this one was pretty decent. The guy dropped it off over the winter and didn't need it till the end of summer. I can probably handle that timeline with no stress. And here it is, the last one I was trying to do. And we were hoping it was just check it out and put it back together. It's always, a little bit more of a hassle with the aftermarket bell housing, but in this case, FTI, it's comforting for me to know, because I didn't pioneer anything, but I looked at all the parts available in the aftermarket, and I used the gasket on the outside of the pump, between the pump and the bell housing that ATI provides, and I use flange bolts, and I use the stock Turbo 400 pump washers, and I don't use any sealer, so you can take it off and on at will, and you're not scraping goo. And worse is when the silicone goes down in the threads and hydraulics the case. When you tighten the bolt, you've seen people use bread to remove a pilot bushing, and imagine what you're doing to the bottom of that hole. So it is important, if you get one that's full of silicone, or that's what your method to prevent leaks. Long story short, which I'm not good at, I was impressed when I took the bell housing off, and it was done the way I like to do it. And this is a major company. I'm just a little guy in the woods. And I figured that out on my own a long time ago. and now it's mainstream, or maybe the other way around. And let's just put it out there, because it's not out there enough. I don't understand how in the year 2026, people that should know better see an aftermarket bell housing on a stock case Turbo 400 and they think they're protected from an explosion. You're not. The explosion's going to be right about where this bracket is when the direct drum comes apart. You're not protected from that. All that does, the aftermarket bell housing, it allows you to save a case that's broken. It allows you to use an old Pontiac Buick Cadillac case, which I've documented many times is a much nicer case than the Chevy. You can cut that OPBC bell housing off and make it a Chevy, which is the most popular application. Or you could put a different brand, a Ford bell housing or a Hemi bell housing on it just by using the pump bolts. This is not aftermarket SFI cases. I'm talking stock cases. So the bell housing, and it doesn't, you don't have to run the metal shield over the stock bell housing around your flex plate. You have to have an SFI flex plate to go drag racing almost anywhere. At very minimal ET, you need that stuff according to the rules and, logic. Over your SFI flex plate, you need the metal band. I have one over there if you haven't seen one, but look it up. To even get through tech, and while we're talking about it, my buddy Charlie and I talk about this stuff every day, it seems, or at least once a week. But tech is a courtesy. If you're going to run your car at the drag strip, whether you've never done it before, you've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, your safety's up to you. It says right in the first paragraph in the NHRA rulebook, which is the rulebook most people go by, you're responsible to understand how fast your car is going to go and the safety equipment that you need. So let's get back to the transmission. So I showed you the pan, and I knew we were in trouble. I popped the pan off, and it's full of metal. Now, at this point, I don't know if the torque converter exploded. There's a lot of, some thin washers, etc. in there, or the Planetary exploded. Turns out it was the latter. The Planetary is now one piece. I cannot get it apart. More shrapnel just keeps dropping out on my bench. There's almost nothing worth using in the lower part of the transmission. And as I was stripping it, the center support bolt was loose. And pretty good chance it wasn't assembled loose. They didn't forget it. Stress occurred and it broke the case under the center support bolt, which is important to sealing second gear oil. So when I took the bolt out, I saw the case was broken and I knew we were in trouble. I had trouble getting it apart. But as usual, I systematically took it apart. First thing I did is take the pump apart. Because you see metal, you got to figure that it's going through and wear and stuff. Well, the pump is questionable. The pressure regulator stuck open, so no pressure. So it had to have stopped driving, I would assume. Or it shut off instantly, and that probably went unnoticed, but all this kind of went unnoticed. And we were hoping it was just going to be a refresh, if you will. Well, it's not. So I can probably free up the pressure regulator, maybe save the pump, but there's a question mark on it, and that's one of the pieces that might be usable. Pretty much from there down, we got some serious issues. So the front clutches are smoked. It has the aftermarket input shaft broached into a stock drum. That'll probably clean up, just needs clutches, etc. But the forward clutches are smoked. Again, we only use low gear, so that's the only set that's applied. You got to figure there was some driving that happened afterwards as the pressure regulator was stuck open or attempting to, that burned those clutches up, because they are hot enough to burn the pressure plate, and all the clutches are black. They were red clutches to start with, and now they're black. With regular steel's not the black ones, so you'll get transfer if you run the nitrated steels, the black ones, against the red clutch. They look black, but black for different reasons. It's just transfer of material, and they're still fine. These are not fine, they're smoked. The forward hub is an aftermarket one with the bearing. I wouldn't trust the bearing. There's so much metal in this transmission, probably not worth using. I've already talked about the direct drum. You'd probably at this point want to file the lugs where the steels ride, because they're going to start catching. The grooves are that deep just from rattling around in there. Over pass after pass and never being applied, I suppose. They counter rotate non-stop in this application. While I'm looking at the bell housing, it's nice as an aftermarket housing. It's out of date. It's over 5 years old, so it needs a new tag. If you're keeping track here, things aren't looking good to putting this back together. From the center support down, the intermediate clutches, I believe, are okay. Well, no, they're not. They got hot spots on them too. So again, they pass each other. Probably needed more clearance. They're not as bad as the other two sets, but not bad. But every bearing, every thrust washer, complete junk. The valve body is probably savable because there's really no moving parts, but it is, I mean, just full of material. It got past the filter. It was just swimming in liquid never-sees under there. The Planetary, like I told you, is absolutely exploded. It's junk. The main shaft, when you get the metal out of the inside of it, all the lube passages, put it in the lathe and I'll check for straightness on both ends. It's probably okay. So we're a couple pieces we can save already. And the output shaft, once again, I check it for straightness. The bushing smoked because it was right packed full of material too. It was, the material had time to circulate around through everything. The case itself was compromised with NPT fittings where they needed straight fittings in the TH400 or TH350. Majority of them, almost all, a straight thread. These were pipe thread. It didn't seem to crack the case, but it's certainly not good for it. But every piece of the transmission is just caked with metal filings. So there's a few pieces you could probably clean up and save, but for the most part, this thing is a throwaway. And it's been a long time since I wasn't comfortable in using almost anything out of the transmission because, excuse me, if you're the rebuilder, like if I choose to clean that pump up, if I want to do it for a transmission for myself and I have issues with it, that's on me. But if I'm going to send it out into the world and people are going to rely on it because, you know, they're going to go racing or whatever, you're not going to pass that on if it's questionable. And this is basically had a grinder run through it, a liquid grinder. So unfortunately, by the time you buy a case and all these pieces, you can probably buy another transmission. Start over. Probably the best thing to do in this case. So that's where we're at. It's, you know, not what we expected, but it's what we got. So I'm gonna carefully box it up and wait to see what the final fate of it is. But me personally, as a rebuilder, have no interest in putting this back together. Only because I have to be responsible for it. So, and it needs almost everything. So that's my day. And this video was kind of short, but that's okay. And again, no reflection on FTI. It has a Sportsman brake. I didn't mention that. It has a trans brake valve body that never gets used. I couldn't even hardly get the valve out of the case. But I'm sure it would all, the valve body itself would probably clean up. What I don't like about that particular valve body, I believe it's a Sportsman valve body, it uses gaskets. And when you have a billet aluminum trans brake valve body and a separated plate, I don't want to have gaskets because you're taking the transmission apart on a regular basis and those gaskets are not stock gaskets. So you need to get those if you plan on using them, or make the leap and leave them out and like everybody else does, and they're probably okay without gaskets. But I wish they didn't even come with it, or they did whatever they had to do. Whatever reason they thought they needed them, they should address and not need them, if that makes any sense. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon. Have a great weekend.